So yeah, welcome to Nod the Rabbit Productions. This race was last Wednesday. It was a ladder league race on April 17th. Sand and Sequoias. That's who we were fighting against. One lap, 20 odd kilometers. And there's our opponents. This was the first race that we were challenged. So we've done 2 races. This was our 3rd race, but we were challenged by a team, Cryo Derailleur Dynasty. Had some tasty riders on there. One to watch out for definitely was James Mason. Big sprint, strong power, especially with the 20 minutes and the 10 minutes. Some quite punchy riders. Our team, Doug, myself, Patrick, Mike, and Pete Vale. And Pete Vale is a very important person for us to talk about, which is mainly why we're doing this video. And so this is just a run through of the riders that we've got. There's Mike Bunton, who is invisible. There he is, the man himself, Mr. Ruby. There's Patrick. There's Pete. And there's the knob, which is very nice, showing. Thank you very much. So we're going to start the race. It starts on Fuego Flats, nice and flat. Sand and Sequoias route, as we said before. Those of you that have never done a ladder race, it's 5v5, or should be. We've got Colin. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. He was our DS, our director sportif. So he was the voice that we could all hear telling us what to do, when to do it. So for this first bit, Colin, what was our tactics?
Well, we're going to get Pete away and work on the front as much as we could. Basically, Pete hasn't got a sprint, so if it comes to the end and Pete is there, he's probably going to finish 7th, 8th, 9th or 10th. So he's basically get Pete working on the front, trying to get a gap, and if he can get away, he can. If he can't, then hopefully he's going to drag people along trying to close a gap for him.
Yeah, so Pete's I'm the one that looks like I'm radioactive or something, I'm glowing. Mike's on the orange Tron. But Pete's just near the front now. He's in the sort of orangey red, sort of yellowy hat. Brilliant camera work here, speeded up obviously. But Pete is not quite yet, but he will be moved to the front. What sort of watts was he able to hold?
I think Pete is sort of 4.4 20 minutes.
Crikey, yeah. So he's a proper diesel. And I don't know if whoever's watching this, if you've never done ladder racing before, but they normally start, from what I can gather, a lot quicker than this. Oh dear. Oh, what's this? What's this where my computer crashes?
Oh, there we go.
No.
Oh no.
Oh dear. Is this it? Right. Everybody go home. No, we're back in the game. Oh no, we're not. Oh dear. Come on, do the wah 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 wah. Oh, we're back in. There we are. I might have done that on purpose.
Sorry about that.
So on the screen you'll also see source for ZWIFT, so that gives the overlays and things. So I've got information on the left hand side. I think, Patrick, you use source. Did you have other overlays?
I have, and I use it. I usually put quite a lot of different views and overlays.
So
usually I don't look at most of them, but it's nice to have in case I watch it.
Yeah. So even though I paused it, I'm just letting it catch up with its buffering. But Pete now is on the front, and he's doing, what's he doing? 4.5 watts per kilo. He was told to do this. He's happy to do this. Colin was drilling us all, but particularly Pete. He knows that he hasn't got that punch in terms of a sprint power. Doesn't mean he's not powerful. It's just he's not hitting 10 watts per kilo or something. So you can see him going off the front here. What did that cause the other team to do, Patrick?
Well, they pretty much had to send quite a lot of guys chasing him,
Yeah,
and we just sat at the back and held on to them, let them work.
yeah. Which is useful. So now we're into Titans Grove proper. Those of you that have raced this, you know it's not flat. Lots of rollers. Best tactic, and I'm not very good at it, is to accelerate downhill, so you go a bit uphill quite quick. This is obviously speeded up massively. There's lots of buffering. Apologies for this, but we're going to be coming to the com very soon. I think it's just around this corner. Colin, talk us through the sort of thinking behind what we were going to do here.
Hopefully, we're going to get Pete to put a little attack in, probably about 6 if he could, or 5 or 6 watts per kilo up the com.
Yeah.
Try and get away. It suits Pete. It's a little bit sort of, it's not as steep. It's a little bit longer in length than the other way around it.
Yeah.
So it sort of suits Pete.
Nice.
The only problem you get is if he can't get away and people are stronger with their punch, they can sort of bridge up. And so he needs to sort of get away and get a good probably 10 seconds gap if he can, or 5 seconds gap.
Yeah.
The only chance that Pete's got to get away is sort of riding people off his wheel. And unfortunately, that probably takes about 40 minutes before he starts getting into the bracket where he can tire people out.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do here is just get their heavier riders, their riders that haven't got such a high watts, to try and chase him because they think he's going away.
Yeah.
And if he gets away, he could stay away. So they have to close the gaps. And for us, we're just watching them trying to sit on them as they're trying to close the gap.
Do you think what we did with Pete stopped the other team kind of having the upper hand? Do you think they were constantly on the back foot? They did try and attack here though, didn't they?
I think it gets to a point where they're thinking, okay, we need to do something because we're just trying to close gaps.
Yeah.
And maybe what was happening, if you look at it, what was happening is we were all sat at the back. And so what they've done, they decided to push on and see if they can cause a gap between 3 of our riders at the back, which it didn't really happen. So it was a bit of a stalemate, really.
Yeah. Was it even me and Mike there coming to the front, getting a couple of nosebleeds?
Yeah.
Bit of recovery now. Absolutely shattered. My wee ball, the gauge at the bottom was hitting near 1. Other riders were low as well. That's a tough climb that way around. What's your thinking for this next bit, Patrick? I thought they were going to now, the stronger riders were going to break away, but it didn't quite happen.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the danger because they had a few like heavier guys with massive watts.
Yeah.
And I was constantly watching a few of them.
Yeah, you can see your watts here. 10.4 for you.
Yeah.
Just keeping on their wheel. They did break away, yeah.
Yeah, we're just trying to close that gap, not let them get away, because it's quite a risk if you let heavier guys get away.
Yeah.
They can TT away from like the lighter guys, like me and Pete, for example.
Yeah, that was important there. Pete almost got dropped, but he got back on. I remember Colin really pushing him to get back on. You remember that, Colin?
Yeah, I think we almost said that he pushed probably one of his highest powers for a while.
Yeah.
What's he doing, 8 point something?
He definitely hit, yeah, definitely. Poor lad. Almost killed him.
I mean, what you want to do, ideally what you'd like to do with Pete is sort of get him out about 2 seconds in the front.
Yeah.
Sort of dangling him out on front like a little carrot. I mean, the problem with that is you being the rabbit that you are, you'd want to chase him. So we don't want to be doing that. But you sort of want to dangle him off the front, especially here.
Yep.
Where he's sort of teasing other guys to think, is he getting away? But just enough to, every time he does, they close the gap.
Yeah. And
then once again, he goes again, and he just keeps tiring people out because people don't want to, chase the wheel down.
Yeah. I definitely think that Pete, although he didn't get away, won us this race by what he did on the front, because he possibly took off a lot of their attacks. He nullified it. Now, what would have happened if they had just let him go? Don't know.
Well, he'd have just rode away
Yeah.
because he can do that because he's not going to tire. And that's the point of him being a diesel. He's not going to tire. So he's going to do 4.4
Yeah.
for that time for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know how long the race. I can't remember how long the race was actually.
It's 33.
Yeah, something like that. So he could do it. He could have rode away from it.
I've paused it, by the way. It's not buffering again. I've paused it. It's just because it's coming to the last kilometre. At this point, what were you telling Pete to do? I'm sure I heard you. Did you tell him?
It was a case of 1 kilometre to go, and I was worried that at this point, if Pete sat in the group, he would just end up being last, which unfortunately is kind of what happened. But at this point now, I wanted Pete to ride off. I actually wanted him to ride off with 2k to go.
Yes.
And really squeeze the pack.
Yeah.
Because if he rides off with 2k to go, he's then forcing people to chase him again.
Yeah.
And those are sprinters that don't want to chase him. Those are sprinters that want to be lazy and they want to hold off for the last 200 meters, really.
Yeah. So what's your thoughts here, Patrick, for your positioning as you've got the best sprint, but one of those guys has already used their draft power up. The guy behind me at the back, I think he goes quite early, which pulls the whole pack through, which kind of set you off. Will you talk us through your sprint here?
Well, I was quite nervous here. Like people were everywhere. I wasn't too sure what was happening. So I saw someone hitting the sprint.
Yeah, so he's gone.
I just decided to chase him, try to see. I can do quite long sprints, so I thought it wouldn't be an issue. Couldn't let it go. So yeah, that's why I went.
Yeah.
And just tried to keep away.
Yeah.
And obviously I knew Pete had tired them out.
Very much.
And they actually seemed quite tired because the one guy let
if I just
go off
back to where Pete was. Right. So where is Pete there? There's Pete. He's doing he's gone. Mike is behind me. Doug's tiring. But those two, they're 3 sprinters. They're 3 big guys. So that's, I can't remember the full names, but Pricker was the guy that went off first. The one to my left, I think, is that James Mason? So his sprint is way better than mine, and the guy on the right who's got his draft power up, that might be the Fahi Neal. Is that right?
Yeah.
And again, it just shows you if you've got the draft and you can stick out a sprint a little bit longer, maybe your sprint endurance is better, you're going to go past people. I don't think... no, I was getting your draft, Patrick, here. I mean, you were slowing a bit there. But yeah, that worked well. And as I say, that was, or as you said, that was definitely down to Pete's work on the front. And they're the results there.
Yeah, I think if you look at their sprint numbers, they had their top end sprint numbers in the last 100 meters were only 10 and 11s, where you two guys are hitting 13s. Yeah. And that is basically what happened because Pete tired them out. Yeah. Or Pete tired people out. And that's the way you have to ride.
And there's the proof. If you look at the bottom, Pete's power 3.9 compared to everybody else's. I was sneaky, managed to keep it at 3.1 because arguably it was the weakest rider there, but just hiding in people's draft. Very useful. So there you go. That was our third ladder race, our first one being challenged. Hopefully we'll get Tommy racing and obviously yourself, Colin.
Maybe.
You got to race, man. Got to race. But cheers for that, guys. We'll be back again soon. And we'll see you guys soon. Thank you for watching. A little round of applause as well.